Now then, with a general election looming next year, what are the issues that affect people in the communities around Greater Manchester? Well, here are the editors of 4 of the weekly newspapers in the MEN Media Group with a flavour of the issues that matter to their readers.
I think one of the big issues is regeneration. On a small scale, there's a lot of houses that are being knocked down and compulsory purchase orders to build flats to bring people in from out of town who don't necessarily have that connection to Salford. But on a much bigger scale, there's a lot of good things happening in Salford, Media City, Port Salford, the big racecourse, obviously the BBC's move up north and them choosing Salford as their base. And the MP Hazel Blears has got a big personality. She's divided opinion in Salford. She was in the national news. She is very much a Salfordian and she's out there campaigning, and I think opinion is definitely polarised, so we'll see at the elections.
Well, the recession is obviously a big issue in the borough. Unemployment is running at its highest rate for more than a decade. Oldham Council is the largest employer in the borough and has cut 10% of its workforce in the last 12 months. Another issue on the streets of Oldham is drinking. Again, anybody who comes into power would need to be addressing the problems of alcohol and the violence that's associated with it.
Well, the main thing comes to mind is domestic violence, alcoholism and alcohol-related crime. They're probably the big issues in Rochdale, Milton and Halewood.
Well, I think following the expenses scandal, local people are looking really for a candidate, or some of the candidates really, to restore their faith in the political system and in the electoral system. And I think they can do that by looking at some of the local issues and getting involved with issues such as the Macclesfield Town Centre development, which has been shelved. We've just had a problem with the BAE site there where they've lost 630 jobs in one fell swoop. So I think that rather than be a party political clone, I think that people in Macclesfield really want somebody to look at those local issues.
The views of the editors of some of the local papers here in Greater Manchester on what their readers would like to see reflected by politicians in the area in the run-up to the general election. We'll look at some of those papers now. Pamela Welsh is here from the Salford Advertiser. Good afternoon. Awful lot of papers to look at, but there are an awful lot of stories to go through. One from yours first. Tell us about the asylum seeker in Salford.
Oh, this is just a terrible story. Sukai Jack. She's from Ghana and she had a terrible time over there. She was arrested and imprisoned for distributing leaflets about a coup, and she was tortured and beaten, and well, she claims this anyway, and she had a really, really awful time. Her brother gave her some money to get out of the country and make it to Britain, and she's been helping out at the Salford Women's Centre, but the border agency has suggested that she might have to go back.
And she's come to you looking for help and support, or...?
Yeah, well, she's come to the Women's Centre has
come to the paper
to really publicise her ordeal and to hope that somebody might really fight for her cause.
I mean, it strikes me as not dissimilar to Saskia Ilowo. Are you familiar with the Moston schoolgirls case? I mean, a really high flyer in a school. This is Bury, the area, wasn't it? The Bury paper were reporting this one a while ago. I don't know, I can't remember whether she actually ended up getting deported. It was very close.
I think this one may run and run, but she has appealed twice, and I think this is her kind of last chance to be saved.
Well, the paper will be behind her on that as much as they can. Well, we've been talking about the Tory party conference a lot on the news. I know you've been fascinated.
We certainly have, oh yes.
But a chap has ambushed David Cameron's Radcliffe walkabout. What's going on here?
Well, David Cameron went to open the Radcliffe Boys and Girls Club, which had been given a makeover as part of a kind of social conscience project from the Tories. And a couple of the kids from this school, Radcliffe Riverside High School, which the Tory Council in Bury are planning to close, they ambushed him and they said, please don't close our school, and they gave him a letter, which he read, and it was very pleasant and polite, apparently, but I'm not sure it's going to make that much difference.
But if nothing else, it gets them some publicity.
Well, exactly, and good for them for using their initiative, eh?
Well, they ambushed him. It was a private event, and they staked him out all day. To make, and they got him in the end.
Sounds like a military operation.
Well, I mean, if you've ever met, the leader of the opposition or whatever, it's different to meeting the Prime Minister. I don't know how successful it would have been, if all goes well for Mr Cameron in early May next year and he's Prime Minister, it'll be a little less easy, I suspect, to get to him. I'm rather alarmed by your constant use of the word ambushed. What exactly did they do? Did they just sort of walk into a meeting or something?
Well, they actually were quite ingenious. The gentleman that was with them, one of the local councillors, actually got him wearing a blue tie.
It's that simple, is it? Change the colour of your tie and you're in.
Yeah, the Labour councillor walked in with a blue tie, and that's how it all started, really.
Good gosh.
And finally, Alicia Fraser is 7 next month, and her mum wants to give her a special present, I believe.
Yeah, this is a really lovely story, actually. This lady, Joanne, she had a huge problem with drugs and alcohol abuse for a long time, and she has a 7-year-old daughter who lost her father at quite a young age, and now the mum's clean and has decided that she really wants to fight for her family.
And because her daughter has no memory of Dad.
No, Dad died, I think.
And neither does Mum, because of what she was going through with drugs and the stuff at the time. And
Yeah.
she's kind of hoping that, I don't know, she can sort of rebuild that and fill in that hole, I think. Is that the idea?
I think that's the thing, to really show the child some love and some affection, and to get back to a proper family life again, really.
She's missing half her family, she says. It's right she knows where she comes from. In the summer, she began asking about her dad and grandparents. I couldn't give her answers because that dark period in my life is still a blur. And what's interesting, many addicts, the paper goes on to say, this is the Oldham paper, Joanne came from a good family but fell in with a bad crowd. It's easily done, isn't it? It's not necessarily just, people from certain social, economic backgrounds. It can affect anybody, can't it?
I mean, she goes on to say that she's one of these people who will try anything. As a kid, he's quite precocious and he'll do anything. And at 11, if you're offered some, it must have been very hard for her. But I think she's come through it now.
Good news.
Let's hope
It's nice
so.
to have a positive, upbeat story. Pamela, thanks very much indeed for coming in. This is Channel M Today. Coming up after this short break, Ian's here. It'll be sport.